BMW Hybrid versus Toyota Hybrid. Lithium batteries, eCVT, ZF automatics, electric motors buried in gearboxes, and a lot of people still saying, if I'm going hybrid, I might as well go luxury. BMW Hybrid is the best of both worlds, performance and efficiency. On paper, it sounds right. In real life, for long-term ownership and total cost, the luxury hybrid choice is often a mechanical trap. BMW's plug-in hybrids and mild hybrids are stunning to drive when they're new. Toyota's full hybrids are boring on paper and everywhere in taxi fleets. Only one of those has a deep track record of surviving 10 to 15 years without asking for four-figure drivetrain repairs. I'm GearHead. I don't care about badge wars. I care about what's behind the casing. Which hybrid architectures have proven they can go 200,000 to 300,000 miles, and which ones quietly pile on failure points once they're out of warranty? Before we dive in, if you want a printed, step-by-step way to protect yourself from this, hybrids, turbos, CVTs, everything, grab my ebook, GearHead Genius, the forensic guide to not getting screwed by your car. The dealership wants $4,500 for a new hybrid battery. My forensic checklist shows you how to save it or stretch its life for $0 with basic tools. One solid tip in that book will pay for it 50 times over. The link's in the description and pinned comment. Make sure you're subscribed too, because this is exactly where people get burned, buying drivetrain complexity they don't need, just because the logo looks better. Let's break down BMW Hybrid versus Toyota Hybrid. Why the luxury choice is a mechanical trap, using facts, not fanboy talk. Toyota's full hybrid system, Hybrid Synergy Drive, is in the Prius, Corolla Hybrid, Camry Hybrid, RX 450h, Highlander Hybrid, and Lexus RX, ES, NX, and UX hybrids. The core architecture consists of an Atkinson cycle gasoline engine, MG1, which is motor generator 1, MG2, which is the main drive motor generator, one planetary gear set acting as the power split device, reduction gears plus a differential, and a medium-sized battery pack, either nickel metal hydride or lithium-ion depending on the generation. A key fact, Toyota's so-called eCVT is not a belt CVT. There is no metal belt, no cone pulleys, nothing like Nissan or Subaru CVT horror stories. Instead, it's fixed gears in a planetary set, two electric machines, oil bath lubrication, and a power split between mechanical and electrical paths. MG1 and MG2 start and support the engine, drive the wheels, regenerate during braking, and manage engine RPM versus wheel speed with software, not clutches. What this means mechanically is that there are very few moving parts in the transaxle. There are no shifting clutches, no torque converter lockup clutch, no gear hunting, and no belt to stretch or snap. And Toyota runs this system conservatively. Engines are detuned for efficiency, not maximum power. Electric motors are sized for reliability and moderate assist, not insane 0 to 60 numbers. The battery state of charge is kept in a middle band to protect the chemistry. Looking at real-world data, you see Prius taxis with 300,000-plus miles on original transaxles, Camry and RAV4 hybrids in rideshare fleets doing 200,000-plus with no transmission rebuilds, and Lexus RX hybrids aging out from rust and suspension issues before the hybrid system fails. The weak points, which are documented and rare compared to alternatives, include engine-side issues on some specific engines, like Generation 3 1.8-liter EGR and head gaskets if neglected, inverter failures on early Prius generations, which were recalled and updated, and battery aging after 10 to 15-plus years, especially with poor cooling fan maintenance. But the hybrid gearbox itself, it is statistically one of the least problematic transmissions in the entire industry when serviced decently. That's important when we talk about BMW. BMW uses several different hybrid strategies across its lineup: mild 48-volt hybrid systems with a belt starter generator, full e-drive plug-in hybrids or PHEVs with ZF HDP automatics plus an integrated motor, and pure EVs, which are a separate topic. Here, we're talking about the full hybrids and PHEVs, the ones people cross-shop with Toyota and Lexus hybrids when they want a luxury hybrid. Common layouts include the BMW 330e, 530e, X3 xDrive 30e, and X5 xDrive 45e. They feature a turbocharged gasoline engine like a 2-liter inline-4 or a 3-liter inline-6 in higher-end PHEVs, a traditional 8-speed ZF HDP automatic, an electric motor integrated into the transmission housing between the engine and the main gear set, clutches managing engine and motor coupling and gear changes, a larger high-voltage hybrid battery under the floor or trunk, and complex power electronics and cooling. Power flow capabilities allow for engine-only through the ZF HDP to the wheels, motor-only through the HDP to the wheels, or engine and motor together through the HDP to the wheels. There is also regeneration through the motor back into the battery. From a driving perspective, you get very strong performance, smooth gear shifts because the ZF HDP is a great automatic, EV-only capability at low speeds and for modest distances, and great marketing numbers on combined power output and 0 to 60. From a mechanical perspective, you now have a turbocharged, high-specific output auto engine, a complex high-ratio multi-clutch automatic transmission, an integrated traction motor in that transmission, additional clutches to discouple and recouple the engine, high-voltage control electronics and a sizable battery, and cooling systems for the engine, transmission, inverter, and sometimes the battery. Compare that to Toyota. Toyota has one planetary gear set, 2 motors, and a simple reduction gear set. BMW has a full traditional automatic, an integrated motor, an engine, clutches, and more. It doesn't take an engineering degree to see which one has more failure points. Let's look at stress and complexity and why BMW hybrids are harder to keep happy. First, turbocharged engines versus Atkinson engines. Toyota hybrids often use naturally aspirated Atkinson cycle engines, like the 2.5 A25 FXS. They have lower peak cylinder pressures, less boost or none at all, and electric motors fill in low-end torque, so the engine doesn't need to be aggressive. BMW hybrids commonly use turbocharged auto engines, like the 2-liter B48 inline-4 turbo or the 3-liter B58 inline-6 in higher-end PHEVs. They have high cylinder pressures, turbocharger heat and lubrication demands, and more things depending on perfect oil and cooling. Turbo plus direct injection plus high specific output equals more stress by design. If you're leasing for 3 years, it's no problem. If you're buying a 6-year-old 80,000-mile BMW hybrid to keep to 200,000, this matters. Next, transmission architecture. For Toyota, there are no gear changes, no shift shocks, no torque converter, no multi-clutch gear sets. Motor torque is blended electronically. For BMW, it shifts gears through clutches and valve bodies just like any ZF HDP automatic. Motor torque passes through the same gear train and clutches. The integrated motor adds torque spikes into that system, and the transmission fluid and internal parts deal with both engine and motor torque over time. The ZF HDP is an excellent conventional transmission, but it's still a conventional automatic with a lot of moving parts. Long-term health depends on fluid changes, which BMW often calls lifetime. Adding hybrid torque and stop-and-start cycles stresses components in ways original ZF designs weren't made for a few generations ago. Toyota's whole trick is to cut out the multi-gear automatic entirely. Then there is thermal management. For Toyota and Lexus hybrids, there is engine cooling, inverter cooling on a dedicated loop, and the transaxle is run in a shared oil bath, meaning fewer hot friction interfaces. For BMW hybrids, there is engine cooling for the turbo, head, and block, transmission cooling for friction clutches and torque converter elements, where present, inverter and motor cooling, and battery cooling, which is liquid or air depending on the model. Every one of those has pumps, has sensors, and has potential leak points. More loops equals more opportunities for something to go wrong around year 8 to 12. Let's look at real-world reliability and what we actually see.
For Toyota and Lexus hybrids, the evidence shows taxi fleets choosing the Prius, Camry, RAV4, and Lexus hybrids for uptime. There are documented high-mileage examples of 300,000-plus miles on original hybrid transaxles. Owners are doing nothing more than oil changes, coolant, occasional transaxle fluid, and maybe a battery down the line. Hybrids fail, but when they do, the patterns are engine-specific issues, like the Generation 3 Prius EGR and head gasket, inverter issues on early generations which are mostly addressed under extended coverage, and battery aging, though many go beyond 10 to 15 plus years before showing serious degradation. The architecture itself has been pounded on for more than 2 decades. For BMW hybrids, there is a shorter hybrid history in volume. Early systems like the active hybrid 7 and 5 used different layouts with limited success. PHEVs like the 330e, 530e, and X5e have been around for a shorter time and in smaller volumes than Toyota hybrids. Common concerns seen as hybrids age include high-pressure fuel system issues with injectors and the HPFP, which is regular BMW stuff, carbon buildup on intake valves from direct injection, regular BMW stuff, turbocharger wear and wastegate problems, regular BMW stuff, transmission wear or flaring if fluid is never changed, high voltage faults where motor and transmission integration and inverter problems can be expensive, and battery degradation in PHEVs, which have smaller packs than full EVs and are often deep-cycled harder. It's important to note that BMW hybrid system failures are not as heavily documented as Toyota's simply because there are fewer of them in abusive taxi duty. They don't get run to 300,000 miles as often, and many are leased and disposed of. So you're buying unknown long-term complexity versus known conservative durability. There is also the PHEV trap, BMW's usage assumptions versus reality. Almost all BMW e-hybrids are PHEVs or plug-in hybrids. They're designed around the ideal that you plug in every night, you drive daily trips mostly on EV, the engine runs mainly on longer journeys, and both the engine and motor work in their sweet spots. Real owners often don't install home charging, rarely plug in, hammer the car in hybrid mode because performance is good, and follow BMW's long-life service intervals religiously, even under unfavorable conditions. That means the PHEV is dragged around as a heavy, complex, over-engineered gas car. The battery is underused or used in short bursts. The engine does a lot more work than the brochure implies. Transmission clutches and gear sets still see heavy service, and hybrid system complexity remains on your future repair list even though you never got the full benefit. This is exactly where total cost of ownership becomes a luxury trap. You paid for complex hybrid integration, a bigger battery, a high-power motor, and extra cooling and electronics, but if you don't plug it in and don't plan to sell before the warranty ends, you're just volunteering for doubled complexity with half the benefit. Toyota's non-plug-in hybrids are always being used as designed, with no plugging required. They are always giving you fuel savings, and they are simpler mechanically. So who should actually buy a BMW hybrid versus a Toyota hybrid? If you're honest about your usage and goals, you are a good BMW hybrid candidate if you lease or plan to own under warranty for 3 to 5 years, you will install a home charger and actually plug in nightly, you value performance and refinement more than lowest long-term cost, and you're okay migrating out of the car before the highest risk years. You are a good Toyota or Lexus hybrid candidate if you want to own it for 8 to 15 years, you care about long-term reliability and predictable costs, you do mixed city and highway driving with lots of stop-and-go or normal commuting, and you want efficiency and comfort, not bragging rights power. If you're cross-shopping a used 5 to 8-year-old BMW hybrid and a used 5 to 8-year-old Toyota or Lexus hybrid, and your plan is to keep it as long as it makes sense, then engineering reality favors Toyota and Lexus hard. A 7-year-old RX 450h or Camry hybrid with 100,000 miles uses a proven, simple hybrid transaxle, has an under-stressed Atkinson engine, and likely just needs routine maintenance and maybe some suspension work. A 7-year-old BMW 330e or X5e with similar mileage has a turbo engine with typical BMW wear points, has an integrated hybrid automatic that's expensive if anything inside fails, has a PHEV battery whose long-term state depends entirely on how the previous owner used it, and has a lot more that can send you into 4-figure repairs. That's the trap.
Let's stick to facts, not feelings, on why the luxury hybrid is often a mechanical trap. Fact 1. Toyota's full hybrid architecture has more than 2 decades of high-mileage proof: taxis, fleets, private owners, and ugly conditions. Fact 2. BMW's plug-in hybrid architectures are newer, in fewer cars, and are layered on top of more complex base hardware like turbo engines and ZF automatics. Fact 3. PHEV usability and battery health depends on owner charging behavior. Many owners do not plug in as intended. Fact 4. Extra performance from the BMW hybrid comes from adding power, not simplifying complexity. That's great short-term, but risky long-term. Fact 5. Total cost of ownership at 10 years favors architectures with fewer stressed parts and more conservative tuning. That's Toyota's entire hybrid philosophy. So when you think, I want a hybrid that's nice, BMW hybrid versus Toyota hybrid, I'll go luxury. You're not just choosing interior materials, you're choosing between a proven, conservative hybrid gear train that quietly does its job for 15 years versus a high-output turbo, complex automatic, integrated motor, battery, and extra cooling and electronics that nobody can promise will be chill at 200,000 miles. That's why, from a forensic, engineering, long-term perspective, the luxury hybrid is often a mechanical trap. If this gave you a clearer picture of what you're actually buying when you choose a BMW hybrid over a Toyota hybrid, complexity versus proof, and you want a structured way to evaluate any car like this before you sign, that's exactly what my ebook is for. GearHead Genius, the forensic guide to not getting screwed by your car. The dealership wants $4,500 for a new hybrid battery. My forensic checklist shows you how to save it for $0, or at least extend its life dramatically by cleaning cooling fans, reading data, and not falling for "it's dead, replace it" without proof. Inside the guide, you'll get anti-dealership checklists for Toyota, Honda, Ford, and Subaru, the lifetime fluid lie decoded with real intervals, how to spot known weak points like VVT oil lines, rear main weeps, and EcoBoost timing rattles, high-voltage battery sections, a BS translator for Service Advisor upsells, and a 300,000-mile maintenance roadmap and a 10-minute weekly inspection routine. If you actually care about total cost of ownership, not just monthly payments, it's one of the best tools you can arm yourself with.